I'm Jacqui Glass. I'm a professor at Loughborough University, professor in architecture and sustainable construction. So absolutely delighted to be here with you this morning. When Chris asked me if I would like to give a keynote again this year, I said, oh, absolutely, of course. But I started to think, what should I focus on? And I remember distinctly coming last year and talking to such a wide range of people, some PhD students, lecturers, professors, and it made me reflect that actually this year was 20 years since I did my PhD viva. And then I cheered myself up again, and I decided, wouldn't it be a nice idea to reflect on an issue, a concept which has been absolutely material to my career, and actually illustrates exactly what Jonathan has just been talking about. This whole idea of the principle of problem solving, the privilege of problem solving in a collaborative way. And so what I wanted to focus on today, when there's this idea of working with external partners, working with businesses, working with external organisations, what this means to academic life, what this has meant to me and has enabled me to do. Because, Chris, to be fair, you know, we've both been in this a long time. The vision that we've just heard set out is the product of a very long journey. So for those of you who are doing research currently, who are PhD students, that may feel like a long time away. So what I would like to do in my presentation then is maybe unpick that a little bit and look at some of the steps that you might take along the way, such that you too can also be part of such an important project, perhaps in the future. I'm picking out a few points through my career here because for me they were really quite influential or instrumental in the journey that I took. And I'm putting up there pictures of people for a reason. Collaboration is absolutely about people. We can love off-site construction, as I'm sure you do. However, if we don't meet the people along the way that share a vision of off-site construction, we won't get any further with it. I'm sure you'll agree. And it also gave me the opportunity to pay tribute to this man here, Ray Ogden, who was a professor at Oxford Brookes University, who sadly died this year. Now, he was very instrumental in sustainable technology research, and he was my PhD supervisor, actually. So he's a sad loss to our community. But throughout my career, I've made a huge effort, not just to meet people, but to meet a variety of people. Because actually, you never know where the opportunities are going to come from. And conferences like this are absolutely one of those examples where you might come across somebody and have those conversations. I was very fortunate when I went into an academic career that I also had some fantastic researchers come to work with me. PhD students, engineering doctorate students, who then went on to go into industry and feed back into the academic research and development process also. So this is about a journey that I have taken, but what I wanted to do is pick up on some more general lessons that I've certainly learnt about that I think might help you along the way as well. Most of you, if you were here last year, you would remember that I spoke about the network that I'd set up 7 years ago called APRE. And APRE is absolutely central to the sustainable construction products debate in the UK, because what we focus on is responsible and ethical sourcing. And if any of you come from London, you will have seen the headline on the Evening Standard yesterday was all around modern slavery. So let us always focus, when we talk about sustainable construction, let's think about materials, but let's also think about social and environmental factors as well. And that's what we've been doing. Now, APRE for me has been extremely successful as a mechanism to collaborate with an industry that A, needs to change, and B, wishes to change, not necessarily in the same proportion, but by devising a programme in which industry participants feel they would like to take part, feel that they are not intimidated to come on university campus, because believe you me, that is an issue at times. Looking at a programme of events and activities and guidance material that speaks the right language to your external audience is critical. And I'll return to the issue of language a little bit later on. But I think, Chris, I think you said did you say something about starting small? Did we say something about starting small? Just gradually building a relationship. Gradually building. This is critical. Even if you only start with one small project, start and build up. We've got to the point now where we're on our 7th national event on responsible sourcing. But that could not have happened unless we just built sort of one brick at a time, if you like. So what I'd like to do now is look a little bit more generically. Let's reflect on, and feel free to argue with anything that I say based on your own experiences, of course. What brings us together? And I do like these really hackneyed little icons in my presentations. So we have some nice test tubes to represent academic life, and a dreadful looking factory to represent industry. My apologies. What do academics say? Why do they want to work with the external partners? Well, it gives me insights on my research. It helps me keep up with what's going on. It helps me actually potentially to test what I'm doing, to validate it or to verify it. From the industry point of view, though, the motivations are slightly different. Can we save cost or time? Can we extract from our university colleagues new ideas? Can we develop our staff base in our dreadful looking factory? Can we develop our staff and our expertise? Now, these are not my words, these are from a survey actually, and I've got the references which I can share with folks later on. But this was about motivations to collaborate. Now, the first thing that we see, of course, here is that they are different. I cannot underline this enough. Please do not go into a collaboration expecting everything to be sorted out from day one. Your motivations to collaborate may well be different. And this is why we use different mechanisms to try to work with companies, to work with external organisations, to try to tease out where the areas of common ground might be, to tease out where the opportunities might be. I put this up, this is something that I developed for a presentation with industry partners who wanted to collaborate on research, because I wanted to try to explain to them, how do you start if you've not been working at all with a university? Where do you start from? And actually, the first thing is to just get to know each other and start doing things like guest lectures and offering dissertation projects, etc. But the mechanisms become more long-term, more meaningful, more substantial as you go through this sort of iceberg, if you like. I don't know if it's an iceberg or a pyramid, but you can see where I'm going with this. Now, interestingly, Jonathan, in your presentation, you mentioned one of these, a knowledge transfer partnership. And this is a classic example of a sort of semi-public funded, part industry funded mechanism, which is absolutely designed to exchange knowledge between universities and industry. But as you can, this is quite a substantial commitment on the part of all parties, actually. And then the most substantial commitment, which is why they're not terribly common, is where you have a person actually moving and transiting between the two spaces. What I want you to take away from this is the 3 words on the left-hand side. You have to start with the awareness piece. You have to get into the mode of exchange in order to get impact. Now, for those of you outside of the UK higher education system, the importance of that word may not be immediately obvious. But in the UK government's assessment of the quality of our research in the UK, impact of our research on the world is growing in its importance. So to be able to demonstrate impact is critical. And to be able to demonstrate, from Chris's point of view, to be able to demonstrate that he has influenced the design and creation of a new city block in Leeds, well, fingers crossed, everything will go well, What a fantastic example of impact, but you need to build up to it. I looked at some surveys. University of Cambridge, and these are two different sets of data, and NCUB, which is National Centre for Universities and Businesses, do regular surveys on the part of academics and industry partners about their views. And one of the things they were asking is, what are the challenges? What are the challenges which kind of either pull people apart, pull parties apart in an existing agreement, or prevent people working together? So here are the areas of tension. Again, our test tubes, our academics on this side, first of all report a lack of time. Above everything else, 58% of them, and this was, I think, about 5,000 individual academics on this survey. It's a big sample. Lack of time. Bureaucracy and university administration was the next highly ranked factor. And then insufficient resources, by which I suspect they mean staff time, staff funding, access to equipment, laboratories, etc. It's a bit of a catch-all. But lack of time was the big one. Whereas if we look from the industrial side, there's some similarities here, but can you see the language is different? The principal barrier for them is the lack of resource to manage the relationship. So the industry partner is seeing, what do I need to commit to manage this relationship effectively? They're seeing that as a barrier, but also funding, and then this issue of awareness. I don't know which university to work with. How do I find out which university to work with? Where do I know where the expertise is? But the one that really bothered me was this one, insufficient benefits. But this is perceptions of benefits. Doesn't mean that they definitely didn't get the benefits. What it means is they don't know if they're going to get the benefits. They don't know what the return is going to be. And I just added a few comments here because the number of times that people have said, we've got a problem in our business, can you solve it? Well, maybe, but is that actually the problem? One of the key things that we can do as academics is think. That might be a sweeping generalisation, I appreciate. But I believe that's the business that we are in. Sometimes we're better at spotting the problem than the industry is. I need you to think about that for a minute. But these things can pull us apart. So these are the barriers that we have to overcome. And the CBI, the Confederation of British Industry, offers us some thoughts on how we should better engage. Now, I admit I have tweaked these and I have reordered them because actually they didn't really give any sense of prioritisation in their list. But from my experience, those three at the top are what you need to be aiming at. Communication is critical. From the very first word you utter when you meet somebody over coffee today, to the pitch that you make to get funding, to the communication style that you adopt when you are in a meeting, a project meeting, with these companies that are giving you millions of pounds to do fantastic work. Commitment to communication is critical. And this is where I've found projects often fall down, is the commitment for a fixed person, this fixed person who is going to handhold on both sides. If that varies, your project is really at risk, your collaboration is really at risk. And so we could debate a lot about contracts, we could debate a lot about intellectual property. For me, that's never the issue. That's so minor. These are the big things that affect your reputation. These are the things that, if you do them well, will attract more collaborators to your research. And my final slide, to sort of round this up and sort of set the scene for hopefully some conversations that will carry on through the conference, because from my perspective, if you are going to make a change in the world, it's probably easier to take the industry with you rather than just write papers. Probably. Start small. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew. And I mean that for both academics and industry partners. Don't go too big too fast. If you can be honest with each other, the musical notes symbolise that you are singing the same song. If you are starting to sing the same song, carry on singing. If you can't hit those notes together, walk away. Don't go any further, because it isn't going to work. You need to have that early reassurance that you're moving in the same direction. Only then can you really start fixing and moving forward and getting those shared goals and aspirations, the city block that we've just seen. But be honest about your expertise. Again, this is where I've seen projects fall down in my experience, is where people have committed to things that actually they can't do, they haven't got the expertise to do. So don't be afraid to say, that's not my specialism. I'm going to bring in somebody else who can help us with that. Again, both sides. But if you get it right, and I'm reasonably happy that there are bits of things I've done that I've got right, didn't get everything right, I got some things right, you get the shared platform of success. Now, what does that mean? It means more reputational opportunities. It means you have credibility. It means when you phone up the procurement director of a contractor and say, my PhD student would like to talk to you, they say, yes, when? Not, who are you? Okay? Building a reputation around what you do as an academic is very important. Building your credibility externally gives you more opportunities. And the most amazing thing is when somebody else recognises your work and credits you without you even seemingly doing anything, which is marvellous. It can happen. I'm putting the Twitter bird up there for a good reason. We could have a big debate about the benefits and drawbacks of social media. Got no intention of doing that right here, maybe later. But I went on Twitter in 2013. I've got 3,500 followers. And if I need ministers, if I need to reach out to MPs, if I need to reach out to chief executives, I can do it in 3 seconds through Twitter. That is success for me, because that means I can reach people, they can reach me. I am working at a completely different plane. I never imagined that that would be the case, but then I never imagined 20 years ago that there would be a thing called Twitter. So I'm delighted that I actually took part in it. I didn't want to at the start, I was very reluctant, but it works. Happy to talk to anybody about that later, but we do have a privilege here. If we get this right, we do get to solve problems. They may not be the ones that the industry thought they had, but if we can move forward, and if we can solve some of the problems about building overheating, if we can solve problems about indoor air quality, if we can solve problems and reduce modern slavery in our supply chains, we can make a difference to society. But my message to you today is, you don't need to go it alone. Collaboration can help, as we've seen already this morning. I'll leave it there, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacqui.